Well, because of this fellow right here, Sean Clark, who many of you may know.
You're welcome.
I'm a part of this. He called me up one day and said, Nick, they're doing Halloween again. I went, yeah. And I heard about that. And he said, you want to play the Shape? I went, what? And I said, yeah, they're looking for people to play the Shape. And I said, they're looking for people around 60-something years old. That, you know, and they said, well, why wouldn't you want the original guy to play the Shape then? He's around 60-something years old. It's exactly the same thing. So I said, well, I'll talk to the director. So I talked to David Gordon Green, wonderful guy, very talented director. And he said, you want to do it? And I said, well, let me think about it. And then I thought about what you have to actually do on a set. You know, you're doing these shots at 3 in the morning. You're getting up out of your chair and you're putting on the stupid ass hat. And look just like this guy right here. There you go. Stand up. Let me show you. This is what you have to do at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Every morning.
Every morning. And I was just thinking, I don't think I'm going to do it. Besides the fact that there were all these stunts and stuff like that. He said, well, you won't have to do the stunts, but you know, things like that. So I said, David, why don't we do something? It sounded like he wanted to get some of the old gang back to kind of legitimize the new series. And I said, well, I'll do something. Let's just do something. He said, okay, we'll figure it out. So I wound up doing like a shot. If you didn't already know, when you see Jamie come out and see the Shape for the first time up in the window, and she shoots at him, and she thinks she's going to shoot him, and it's actually a reflection in the mirror. That's the shot that I'm in, and the actual shot of the mirror then is James Jude Courtney. So we kind of, you know, handed the torch off in one shot. It was a lot of fun. So I had the fun week there on the set to see some old friends like Jamie Lee Curtis. Mr. Carpenter was there at the time, and meet these new idiots. I mean, friends that would become lifelong new friends, and you know, just had a ball. And I went on to do little cameos in the next 2 as well. So the other thing that I did on the show was that, you know, David Gordon Green was gracious enough to send me the scripts and actually asked me some questions, and I could give some input on the way the movie got. I told him, don't do that last one. No, I didn't. There was some controversy there. So, but I had a great time, and just getting back to 2018, I thought that was really very well done. It was a lot of thought getting into how you transition, make a new story, but also bring in some of the fun and the fun of the original, bring back certain people, and David was very well aware of the little Easter eggs he would add into it for the fans to enjoy. So I thought it was what you got from the process, and this includes Chris's interest in the picture too, is a picture made by fans of the original movie. They loved it, and they wanted to do right by it and right by the fans. So I think this was their way of doing it. So hopefully you guys appreciated that effort.
Oh yeah. Yeah. These movies aren't easy to make. A lot of people think that we're just clowning around all the time. They're not easy to make, especially this movie. It was all nights. We shot it in the winter. We were outside a lot, so you know, you're talking 32 degrees and you're out in the middle of the cold all night, and you know, and it's not that fun. I mean, it's fun, but it's not that part of it's not fun. And but like Nick said, it was a labor of love from everybody on the crew. Were big fans. Everybody from the props to the costumes to the craft service, everybody on the crew were big giant fans of the first movie, and we all really wanted this to be special, and we wanted it to be by the fans and for the fans, and we did the best we could, like it or not. But I like it, and I'm really happy with this movie. And I'll give you a little alternate ending of what the ending was before we reshot it. So when you're watching this movie, maybe when when you come towards the end and you realize what the original ending was, maybe you have a different thought of whether you like that better or not, but the original ending was, there was a big giant fight between the Shape and Laurie Strode out in front of the house. Big giant fight, involved a crossbow, and it involved a gun, and it involved all this stuff, and so there was a huge fight between those two, and they get into a knife fight, and they basically just are slashing each other up kind of over and over and over, and they're fighting out in this yard. Until Laurie sustains a wound, and Allison and Judy Greer's character come and they grab her and they pull her away, and basically the Shape and Laurie Strode are they're all slashed up and they're bleeding out. So they drag Laurie Strode off, and as we know, they take her out on the road, they get in the truck and they take off down the road. And the Shape slowly walks into the woods as he's bleeding out, and he's just kind of very somberly and again poetically walking through the woods, bleeding to death. And then he ends up back at the gun range with all the mannequins, all Laurie Strode's mannequins, that creepy gun range. He ends up at that gun range and he just sits on a bale of hay, and he's just bleeding out, and he just sits there, and the camera just goes out and pans out and pans out, and it fades to black. So you don't know if he dies, you don't know if he lives, you don't know anything. He just sits there among all these really creepy mannequins. And I thought it was a really beautiful ending, and I really liked that ending. But I guess audiences didn't go for that. Audiences wanted a bigger pal. They wanted something. They wanted fire. So we gave them fire. So anyway, a little bit of trivia for you. So when you watch the movie, when you come towards the end, keep that ending in mind and see if you think that works in your head or not. Better for you. So,
Chris, tell them the scene you played the Shape in.
I played the Shape. I'm the Shape in 2 scenes in this movie. Again, I look like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but you can't really tell. I was, when Laurie is sitting in her car drinking, when they're going to let Michael out, and she's kind of hallucinating and having a nightmare flashback, and he's walking up to the car, that's me in the Shape outfit. And then when the hands come through the door in the front door towards the end and is grabbing her and lifting her up, and then she takes the shotgun and blows his hand off, that's me, and that's my hand. So looking inside the door, so that was me. So,
but you still have your
I still
hand.
have my hand. I grew it back.
Yeah.
Nick, at the end of the one when you were breathing, do you ever think about just at the very end going, Rosebud?
There was a take at the end of the final one where they wanted to maybe have a final word for Michael. I've said this in the little Q&A earlier in the day that Laurie says, "Are you the boogeyman?" And then he supposedly, there were a number of ideas of what he would say. He would either say yes, but the one I liked the most, he said, "I'm Michael," and then then there's the final denouement.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Any questions from you guys
Do
before
we
we go?
have questions? Yeah.
Now this one's almost kind of a 2-part, but for you, what was like the hardest scene to do special effects wise? And Nick, what was like in the first one the hardest scene for you to do as Michael, or the Shape?
Effects wise in this one, it's hard for me to think back that far and remember after going through Kills and Ends, because Kills was such a tour de force of practical makeup effects. There's so much stuff in there if you really pay attention to it. There's a tremendous amount of work that's done. I had gags working every single day on that movie, so I would say part two, Kills and Ends were the much more difficult. This one, oh God, I have to think back, and my memory is awful, so I apologize. I don't know. I gotta get back on that.
Well, that tongue on the record player.
Oh yes.
That's Halloween Ends. That's not this one.
That's your question was about the 78.
Yeah. Like, what was like the hardest scene for
so
you?
I can remember, unlike him, 45 years ago. No, my least favorite part of that, the hardest part was a physically taxing part, which was, if you remember at the very beginning, Michael escapes from the insane asylum and jumps up on the car. That's me, by the way. And I didn't know at the time, I was in just a hospital gown and underpants. You know how thin those are, right?
Mhm.
Up in the middle of the night, about 45 degrees of weather in, oh, there's my wife, excuse me. No, it is my wife.
I don't know. The shape's in trouble.
I'm in trouble.
Where are you?
John says to some guy off camera, he said, okay, start the water. And I went, what does that mean? Start the water. And I didn't realize that it was a rainy night. And so they took these hoses, it's coming from this big tanker, cold water, and just sprayed it up in the sky, and it comes down in these icicles, and it was one of the most painful evenings of my life. So, and John thought it was hilarious. He went, okay,
You've been
take
denying
two, man.
shrinkage for 20 years.
We did it a couple times. What's that?
You've been denying that shrinkage for 20 years.
Oh.
Any other questions? Who's got a question? Back there.
So, the new movies, I loved them. I thought you guys just really nailed the tone, everything with it, the music. The thing that I really was impressed with was the mask. Like, that's something that I feel like so many filmmakers try to get, and it's so many interpretations. But what was that like, nailing the mask? Like, getting.
Well, I
the
still
real
don't know
mask
if we
down.
nailed it, so, but we got close.
You nailed it. You did.
Yeah.
I thought it was exciting. It was challenging and exciting, and we knew that if that didn't work, it wasn't going to work. So a lot of thought and love and care and effort was put into that mask, and it's not the same mask, and it shouldn't be. We didn't want it to be the exact same mask. A lot of people argue with me that it should have been, and I don't think it should have been. I think we wanted it to be again. It's a committee that develops all these artistic decisions on these kind of movies. So I have my thoughts on what they should be, but you have to take all the ingredients that other people give you and make them taste good for the audience. So it needed to be its own thing, but it needed to definitely have the silhouette and the vibe and the feel and the look of the original. So we tried to fall somewhere in there, and I gave it a little more tragedy than the original had. Tried to give it its own character a little bit without straying too far, because I know if we did that, it wasn't going to work, because people, after all these years and all the sequels, for God's sake, could you just get the mask right?
Your color, right?
So that was the idea behind it. So. You had a question?
Oh, me? Oh, you mentioned the Easter eggs earlier. What were each of your favorite Easter eggs from the 2018 one?
There's so many in here. I liked, this was the first time we threw in the Silver Shamrock Halloween 3 masks were in this one. And they were in it so briefly and so quickly. I mean, that's what I was excited for on that day. I have a great picture of me with Jim in the mask and the 3 kids in those masks, and David Gordon Green, the director, that David had framed for me as a gift. And it's a beautiful black and white picture that I love and cherish so much. But that's my favorite from this one, I think.
I don't remember I just remember the fact that David he kind of giggled with glee that he could put something in the back. There was a scene with Judy Greer at a school, I think it was cut out. And I'm sorry, I'm not remembering the specific thing, so it's going to be a little bit useless example. But he had something on the chalkboard that was referencing some of the originals. Maybe it was what was on Laurie's chalkboard,
Maybe, yeah, same hand.
That thing was part 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe
That's something.
that would be it.
No, they never see the chalkboard in one when she's sitting in.
No.
I think the TV version shows it.
Oh, does
Yeah,
it?
when they did the reshoots to add extra
She's been on the
scenes.
set.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff in here. That's another fun thing about watching this movie. You guys get to watch it tonight. There's tons of it. Like, it's all through there. Stuff that I'm sure you guys haven't even seen or noticed. And I'm not gonna tell you what they are.
Secret.
Anybody else got a question? Okay.
Okay, so I always thought it would be cool to do like post-killer. like when, why he did this. Like, start out when he was a kid, and not, please don't do the Rob Zombie version. Oh my God, no, because
I
he
think
does.
that takes away the mystery of him.
I
don't
know,
you
that's
think?
what I was thinking too.
You don't want that. I
Because
don't think anybody
that's what I like, is because he doesn't talk. His
Well-
mom was not a stripper, she was just, his dad was a regular guy, you know, I mean,
Okay.
that's what I
Maybe,
like.
maybe with all the television series that are being developed, maybe they'll do that.
Oh, I hope not, because I'm like you, I kinda like that. But I'm surprised it never got done.
Yeah. Well, Rob Zombie.
No.
Anybody else? Sir?
Has there been any talks of releasing a like a director's cut with the original ending you filmed for this movie?
I haven't heard anything about that. I'm sure eventually someone will do it to, you know,
Right.
make the money, but I haven't heard. No, David's pretty precious. I think when he finishes the film, that's the film. you
Gotcha.
know, and I don't think he really likes to look. He's a constantly looking forward kind of guy. He doesn't really look back very often.
Gotcha.
Oh, to add on to his, so I heard that there was like an alternate scene where it turned out that Lori caused the bus crash or something like that. Is there any truth to that, or?
I don't remember shooting anything like that.
Hmm.
And I don't remember a script saying that. You read all the scripts, didn't you?
Yeah, no. That was,
All right.
Sir?
At the start of Kills, when the house is on fire, how hard was that to shoot and maintain?
It was
And
hard.
did you just get like one take with it, or?
No, we had a house that was rigged practically with flame bars and everything, and we had that thing on fire very strategically for an entire evening.
but you did wind up burning it down.
We burned it down. We burned it to the ground.
Yeah,
Burned it
Killed
down.
all the firemen.
a different house.
We burned it to the ground. And Jim walked through that house on fire practically. We covered him. I made a special mask that was made out of silicone, and he was covered in layers of fire, layers and gel and everything. And he walked through that house. I gotta say, we did it 10 times.
Wow.
And walking through that burning house and coming out, getting ready for the firemen and everything. And then we ended up, we set the house on fire and burned it down. We all just watched it burn to the ground. It was pretty, and it burned, and it finally all collapsed and turned to ash by 6 a.m. just as the sun was coming up. And we had to wrap. We were just filming it. It was pretty great. It was
You're talking about him.
pretty majestic. Talking about
Yeah, kills.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't burn the house down. We burned down the one at end. It's a different house.
different house.
Yeah.
But it was a different house, but her house.
Yeah.
We burned down, yeah. A couple more and then we'll let you guys watch the movie, sir. Sir. Yep.
I have a question for both of you, if you don't mind. You said you did a lot of practical effects in these. Were you ever met with any resistance from anybody like, oh, we should do this digitally rather than practical?
Not at all, not once. David was very adamant about doing it practically. He loves practical effects. I love practical effects. I mean, we did a couple digital fixes here and there of some things that only purely because of time. These movies are shot very fast, and they're, you know, the makeup effects are the thing they want to spend the least amount of time on all the time, you know, and they always leave it till 6 a.m. when you have to wrap all the time. Like the guy in Kills, not this movie, I know we should talk about this movie. The guy in Kills that gets the knife in his eye, we shot that at literally, we had to wrap it at 7 o'clock and it was 6:45. And we finally got to that gag and they were like, all right, hurry up, you get one shot. So you're sitting there with the blood pump and the thing, and trying to tell them how to get the knife in the eye and thing with the magnet and the whole thing, and you're going, just get it right, because we gotta wrap and we're not coming back to this, otherwise they'll cut it out, you know, because we won't come back to it. So we're constantly, you know, there's a lot of pressure to do those gags, but no, all practical, all the time.
Nick, after that Q&A though, all the women were walking out and they were all wanting to get you on Spotify just to hear your breathing.
Oh.
Oh, my breathing, yeah.
Yeah.
It's classic, let's face it, you guys.
All right, one more and then we'll go. What's up?
There's a general consensus that you just nailed the masks and all the films. I'm curious what is your interest level in being involved in future films?
Future Halloween stuff?
Yes.
I would
Season
do it
of the
if
Witch.
it was good, depending on what it was. I would totally do it. Hey man, I'm a whore. I like work. But I would do it. Yeah.
You said at the Q&A earlier today that, because it was right after you won the Oscar, you said you willing to take a pay cut, so.
I won't take a pay cut.
Oh.
They're gonna have to pay me.
All right, this time they're
But
gonna
anyway,
pay.
do you, anything you wanna say left?
No, thank you guys for being such great fans. I mean, we're having a great time here at the convention, and it's always fun to revisit these gems that have been put up by great artists like this.
Is this y'all's first trip to Nashville?
It is, yeah.
No, my second.
Okay.
So far I've seen